this last section of Module 7, we briefly look at this idea of how science can find the truth. And of course, it's a really important concept to think about because in the end, the science and the scientific method is about trying to find the truth to an idea. It's trying to understand the world around us. And there's a lot of influences, there's a lot of things going on with this here. And of course, in the modern world, one of the problems is this idea of publish or perish. And so a lot of scientific research is traditionally done in things like university laboratories, university science facilities. And the people doing a lot of this research are employed by the university, but the university often puts up things where they have to publish research. And that's a way for the university to get a bit of kudos, but it also shows that the academic is continually working in the field. Now, one of the problems with that is that if a researcher is doing their work, and it might be a long-term project, they still have to publish articles. And if they don't publish it, that can affect their potential long-term employment. And so a lot of researchers will either try and get their name on a research paper, which they didn't do much work with, or they'll even try and publish their articles in online journals. And unfortunately, some of those online journals don't have a very good reputation because you can get published without really getting any peer review. And of course, peer review is such an important process. As this little infographic shows you study something, you write down your results, you get an article ready, the editor of the journal should review it and then send it to peer reviewers who should then critique it, suggest ways that it goes forward. Now, when you have online journals, and some of them are fake, they're there just to make money, all you have to do is pay several $100s and your article can be published. And you can then claim you're a published author of a scientific paper. And so these benefits here of looking at the results and people critiquing and the scientific process being part of review sometimes gets broken down. And sometimes people have deliberately broken this down. And so peer review can be manipulated. So journalist Tom Spears highlighted this in 2013 when he submitted an article to an online journal, which was essentially just gibberish. So what he did is he just took some random words from geology, hematology, blood studies, threw them together and mashed them together to make an article. And pretty much everything in the article was just gibberish. It made no sense. It had a lot of scientific meta-language which made it sound fancy, but it just made stuff up. It was just absolute garbage. It had nothing to do with it. And as he highlighted when he wrote his article for the paper he was working at, it was accepted, no questions asked. He didn't receive any feedback or anything to change anything, or the most important feedback would be, what the hell is this all about? Another journalist did the same thing there, submitted a journal article, which was again gibberish, fuzzy homogeneous configurations. And of course, he went a step further and even put in character names. So Margaret Simpson, Maggie Simpson from The Simpsons, Edna Krabappel also from The Simpsons, and Kim Jong-un, which I'm assuming is a little bit of a joke based on the North Korean dictator. And of course, accepted for publication, no questions asked, because it was in this online journal which didn't really have a complete and proper peer review system. And anyone can do this. There are countless journals online where you just have to submit it and it's accepted. It's in the database. You also, if you go back to 1989, And so you had some researchers who were working on cold fusion. So this idea of getting energy at room temperatures by causing fusion. And this was a thing that was announced in the media. It got a huge amount of publicity at the time. But when it came down to it, the results could not be replicated. And so in this case here was genuine research, unlike the previous ones we just had a look at, that once it was reviewed later on, it was shown to not be correct. There was mistakes made, a whole range of things that go on that were done or that should have been done. And of course, there is also this idea of falsified research. And falsified research in the past was probably a little bit harder to come across because journals weren't online or there was no online presence. But if you look here, going back to Andrew Wakefield and his claim of a link between MMR and autism, his results were published. They were published in one of the most reputable medical journals, The Lancet. But once that information was in the public sphere, it could be critiqued. Scientists who work in the same area tried to replicate the results. They couldn't do that. They then questioned those results, and eventually the paper was retracted. And as I think we've looked at a few times there, it then was revealed that funding came from outside sources who were trying to sue vaccine manufacturers. However, one of the problems with this process, even though the peer review process eventually did cause the paper to be retracted, you then get this idea where people, it's become part of their belief system that vaccines cause problems, that an immune system is better than that. Then the whole idea that, particularly in the US, it all comes down to being fake news.